Hey guys, this is Chidanand from Kratz Infotech NG, and I welcome you to this short tutorial on Ansible integration with Cisco Device. What I plan to do in this short video tutorial is connect a Cisco device, specifically a CSR1000V device, which is running on my local laptop, a virtualized laptop, and I'll connect it with a vanilla Ansible installation. Again, this is also running on my local laptop. One of the principles of DevOps, specifically pertaining to the network engineers, which is called as NetDevOps or DevNetOps or whatever name that you want to call it with, is to write all your configurations, be it simple ad hoc configurations or complex ones, using some or the other programming language, so that all the configurations can be controlled so that they can be run repeatedly, giving you the same idempotent results. So in this short video, what I want to do is bring up a Cisco CSR1000V device, which is running on my Windows laptop. I only have a Windows 10 Windows laptop. So on the same box, I will use an Oracle VirtualBox to bring up a Cisco CSR1000V device. And I'll do some configurations in such a way that it allows SSH configuration, or it allows SSH connectivity using a specific username and a password. I will also ensure that it comes up with a specific IP address so that I can later use this to connect it with my Ansible installation. On the same box, I will also use Vagrant and bring up an Ubuntu 16.04 server. On this Ubuntu, I'll quickly install the vanilla Red Hat installation. Later, when these two are both running on local IP addresses, which can be connected with each other using SSH, I will ensure that I will do some small configuration changes in the Ansible so that I can talk to the Cisco CSR1000V device and run some very simple configurations on it. I'm using Ansible because Ansible is one of the most popular configuration management tools, and the good thing about Ansible is it doesn't need any agents to be running on the local devices or any device that it has to control. So that as a background, the initial configurations of connecting Ansible to any device is a little tricky part. That is the reason why I put up this video, so that I'll show you all the configurations and I'll let you know how to initially make a connection between this Ansible device, the Ansible server and any of the networking device. So once you have the configuration up and going, it's pretty simple for you to write specific tasks either as ad hoc tasks or put all the configurations in a YML file and come up with your own playbooks. The device that I've chosen to be configured is a Cisco CSR1000V device, and this device was something which has got a very nice ISO image and that can be very quickly brought up on a Oracle VirtualBox without needing too much of a configuration or without violating any of the licensing part. That's the reason why I've chosen a Cisco CSR1000V device. If you look at the configurations of the Cisco device, Cisco CSR1000V, this is the device that I've chosen. And there's no specific reason other than that this is pretty simple and very easy for me to bring up. First things first, I have an Oracle VirtualBox version 5.2.6. Any other versions that you have would also work well. So I have this installed on my local laptop, and I already downloaded an image for this particular device. So let me just show you the configurations that is required for me to put this up as a Oracle VirtualBox image. So I'll say a new. So let me give a name for my virtual machine. I'll give a name Cisco CSR1000V Ansible. This is the name I'm going to give this. it will be a Linux, and I don't want to run an Ubuntu. I will be running an ISO image provided by Cisco, so I'm going to say other Linux. Alright, and I'll say next. It would need typically 4 GB of RAM, so I'm going to say specify 4096. And let me not create any virtual machine, virtual hard disk now. So I'll go with this option. I will say OK. Alright, it complains about something not being right, but that's alright. So we'll fix that later because I need a specifically a SCSI controller for it. So I'll go to the settings. Alright, so first let me go to the storage part of it. There's a controller for this. I don't need to have this controller because I want a specific SCSI controller. I'm going to add this, and I will also add create a new disk. This VirtualBox disk image is good. Dynamically allocated, that's also good. 8 GB should be sufficient, but to be on the safer side, I'm going to create a 10 GB, and just give a name for this. Ansible CSR disk. Alright, that's the name I'm going to provide. Alright, this looks good. I would also want some sort of a networking configuration so that when I bring up my device, I want it to be configured with a specific IP address. So let me choose a bridged adapter for this. This is fine. In the advanced part, let me choose Intel Pro 1000 MT server for this. There are 3 different adapters, so I'm going to do the same thing. Not attached. No, I want a bridged adapter, and I want this specific one. 3 enable adapter, not attached. Change it to a bridged adapter, and that's the one. Right, let me just quickly check. Enable empty server, bridged adapter, empty server, bridged. This looks good. Alright, this looks good. Now let me go ahead and specify the ISO file so that I can power my image with it. So let me choose this option, optical drive. I'll say choose my disk, and this is where I already have a CSR1000V ISO that I downloaded from the Cisco. You can Google search it, you'll be able to find the ISO image for it. So I just open it up in this, and everything else looks good. So I say okay, and then let me just start it. So this may take some time. I got a little slow machine, so it may take some time for it to come up. But there's no specifications that you've got to, there's no configuration that you'll have to modify or anything like that. It's a default configuration. So let me pause the video for a while, and once this machine comes up, I will again resume my video. Alright, it took some time, but eventually it comes up with this configuration. So everything was loaded. There's no specific change that I did. Alright, the machine is booting up. It goes through a bunch of it bootstrapping configuration, and yes, we are in business now. Alright, so what I want to do is I want to ensure that for Ansible to connect to it, it needs some user to be credentials to be created. SSH should be enabled, and also I would put up a specific IP address so that using that I can connect to it. Alright, so I have a repository here where I'll give you the link in the details section of this video, but I've got all the steps that is required for me to go ahead and configure this device. So let me just try out all that one after the other. Alright, enable conf t, I would give a hostname Ansible. You can give any name that you want. Okay, username is Vagrant. Privilege 15. Secret or the password is Vagrant. All right. Line VTY 015. Login, transport, import, SSH. One, specify an IP address 192.168.0.10, and this is the subnet mask. No shot. I'll give a domain name. Okay, I'll also create a key pair, crypto key generate RSA modulus 1024. That is good. All right, that's all the configuration that is required, and let me just check if I get my address and everything correct. All right, so I have 192.168.0.10, which is the IP address that I've configured, and let me just verify if this IP address is available for me to SSH from outside the box. Let me open a command prompt and check if I'm able to SSH into this particular IP address. All right, so first let me try to ping this. Ping 192.168.0.10, 192.168.0.10. Great, I'm able to ping to it. Now let me try to SSH into it. SSH Vagrant, that is the username that I specified at 192.168.0.10. All right, so that allows me to log into the box. So I'm pretty much good with these credentials that I've created. I'm also able to SSH to it. So this is all that is required from the device end. So now what I'll do is let me bring up Vagrant. Let me use Vagrant to bring up another Ubuntu box so that I can install Ansible on it quickly. So I also have Vagrant, which is a very good tool from HashiCorp that is installed on my box, and let me quickly show you what is that I have in my Vagrant file. This is just to check that updates. I don't want any updates, I don't want any keys. I am pulling up something called as a Girlingai Ubuntu 16.04, and I'm also specifying an IP address for my particular Ansible machine that I'm going to come up with. So I'm just bringing up another Ubuntu box. So let me open up a command prompt. Always better to run the command prompt as an administrator. My machine has slowed down drastically, but that's fine. I have this in the Ubuntu Ansible controller. So I just have the Vagrant file that is out here, and I'm going to do Vagrant up. So what this would do is bring up quickly my Ubuntu server, and the default users for this is Vagrant and the password is Vagrant. In case you guys are comfortable with using any other Linux boxes, or if you have multiple machines where they're on the same network, you can all bring up the server, and I'll quickly tell you how to install Ansible on it. This may take some time, so let me pause the video for some time till this Vagrant machine comes up. I will SSH to it later on, and I'll show you how quickly I can install Ansible on it, and I'll also do a quick configuration so that I can talk to the Cisco device. So I'm going to pause my video for a bit. Alright, it took a while for my Vagrant to bring up my Ubuntu box. So if I do a Vagrant status, I will see this controller is the name of the machine that I specified. So let me do a Vagrant SSH into my controller. And now I've got into my Ubuntu box on which I'm going to install Ansible. I'm doing all this workarounds just because I do not have too many machines. I just have one Windows box, and I've got both these both the Ansible controller and the Cisco device, which is also running on the same box. If at all you have multiple systems which can access each other through a common IP, you don't really have to do all this workarounds. All right, so this is, let me see if I can ping 192.168.0.10. All right, I'm able to ping my Cisco device. So this is a brand new Ubuntu box. Says Ubuntu box. So let me first do an update on the sudo apt-get sudo apt-get. Alright, since this was a Girlingai Ubuntu box, before I install Ansible, I just want to make sure that all the required libraries are up to date. So I'm just doing a sudo apt-get update so that all the packages are updated. Alright, so let me install Ansible on this. Sudo apt-get install Ansible. Yep. If at all you have a Red Hat variant, it's sudo yum install Ansible. On some of the boxes, you'll have to set the exact repo path for your yum or apt-get modules. In some boxes, there is an EPL release, which is a kind of a prerequisite for Ansible. But if you Google around, you should be able to find how to install Ansible based upon the machine on which you're running. All right, so Ansible looks like it's installed. Ansible version. All right, so Ansible is done. So let me go ahead and configure some of the things for Ansible. All right, so this is where all the configuration files by default is present. So let me become a sudo su, and let me update the host file first. Oops, sorry about that. Let me add an alias. Let me call this CSR Cisco router, and let me specify the IP address 192.168.0.10. And there are a bunch of other configurations that is required for this guy to run. So let me try to look it up. Right, the configuration is Ansible. My machine has become really slow. Ansible underscore SSH. Right, SSH pass is also good. So I like to specify the Ansible username and the Ansible password, so that using these credentials, Ansible will be able to go down to the Cisco device and connect to it. All right, this is exactly what I want. Ansible connection is SSH, SSH user is Vagrant, SSH password is also Vagrant. That is exactly the configuration that I had also specified. So let me bring that up and paste it here. All right, so CSR is my alias, and this is the IP address of my Cisco device, followed by the configurations specific to the device. Since I already created a user called Vagrant with the password as Vagrant and the connection type being SSH. All right, so there's one other small configuration chain that I got to do. This is called the key checking. I want to enable this. All right, so these two are the only configuration changes that is required for me so that I can get my Ansible to connect to my Cisco device. So the only changes that I need to do with sudo right. So let me get out of my sudo permissions and let me execute my first Ansible ad hoc command. Ansible, the name of the alias that I gave was CSR. I'm going to use a module called as raw because many of the Ansible commands or the modules that typically run on a proper Linux would not run on the device. There are very few modules of Ansible which are supported on the devices. You'll have to look up the device specification to figure out which modules are supported and which aren't. So I'm going to use a module called raw, and the argument for that is let me just say show clock. So this is a command that I'm going to fire as a raw module, and I'm going to pass it on, or rather I'm going to fire this against a Cisco device, the IP address of which is all configured using this alias called CSR. And let me also print some debug information in case I get some errors. It's easy for me to debug it. So -v will give me debugging information. Great. So this was able to connect to the device, and this is the output that possibly is something that you would see from the device. Okay, let me just check that. Or if I say show clock, right, this is exactly the time and date that has been shown. Let me run a bunch of other commands. Show version. Oops, sorry about that. Again, these commands are also there. I'm not an expert in these device configuration, so let me just say show version. All right, so this is exactly what is coming out from your device. The Cisco software versions and all that stuff. Let me just try out one more command. Show interfaces. All right, that's a pretty good command to try out. All right, so this is the output that you're seeing from the device. So what I managed to do is ensure that I was able to connect to one of the devices using the IP address and the configuration, and one of the ad hoc commands can be run like this. So if I have a bunch of such commands for me to bring up any of my say environments for any customer or any specific use case, I can pile up all those commands in something called as a playbook and ensure that I run it in one shot. So as a part of DevOps practices, everything has code. So you have the whole configuration for a specific setup, which typically would be troublesome otherwise. So if you want to do it manually, it's all people dependent. Some of these guys who aren't there in your team, and none of them will be able to configure your setup. If at all you put all these steps in a YML file, and of course put this YML file in somewhere in a Git repository, you are good to have the same set of configuration, irrespective of how many times you run it, irrespective of who runs it. So that's one of the practices of DevOps. That's it, guys. That's as simple as that, connecting your any of your networking devices which are Ansible compliant or which typically run on Linux boxes to an Ansible server. I hope you like this video, and thanks a lot for stopping by and watching this video. If you have any questions, if some of the configurations didn't go well, please leave a comment and I'll try to address it as soon as I can. All right. Thanks a lot for watching, and you have a great day.